Coming up in this Fincast, a new plant to the aquarium hobby that stays small and makes that carpet that everybody wants.
Oh, we use the extreme fish food quite a bit in our shop. We like it very much. It's very palatable for the fish. A lot of times fish that don't eat other things will eat the pellets, which is a great thing.
Hi everybody, John here with another Fincast, and I want to follow up on a plant that's called Monte Carlo. It's relatively new to the hobby, and it is a plant that I think may be a game changer. We're seeing all these aquariums on the internet now, the Takashi Amano style tanks that have these beautiful lush carpets either on the driftwood or in the substrate. But those are really hard to do. Most of the plants that form those carpets require a lot of light and a lot of fertilizer and CO2, and it can be difficult for the average hobbyist to sort of undertake that. Well, today we're going to talk about Monte Carlo. Monte Carlo's been in the hobby, as I'm saying this, here in late 2016, maybe 3 or 4 years at the most. And it is a plant that does grow under medium light with moderate amounts of fertilizer. So let's take a look at it. I've had it in my aquarium for a little while. I'll tell you how I'm doing, which isn't great. And then we'll be talking to an expert about this, Brandon McLean, who grows it wholesale, actually beyond wholesale. He grows it in greenhouses, and he sells to wholesalers who sell to retailers who sell to you. Okay, but he really knows a lot about this plant, so we'll be talking to Brandon as well. And by the way, yeah, I'm kind of dressed like a lumberjack today. It's November of 2016, and it's a little bit on the chilly side in the house this morning, so you get what you get. All right, first of all, I want to show you my aquarium. Okay, so we're looking at the tank, and this is the huge driftwood project, which is, I think, by and large going well. The crypts are looking good, but we're talking about this Monte Carlo plant, and I had planted all through the middle of the tank with it, but the problem is that the fish kept digging it up and keep digging it up. And part of the issue is that this substrate, which I love, from Aqua Solum, is very light, and so when you put the plants in there, they don't really have that heavy gravel to hold the roots in place, so that's been a little bit of an issue. But I'm hoping that enough of it took hold that we'll see some growth and some shoots sticking out, and that the roots will be embedded so deeply that everything doesn't get dug up. So I've been a little bit frustrated, as you can tell, because the fish keep digging up the plant. But if you look closely, you can see where I really embedded some of these plants way down deep in the substrate. And finally, after about a month, maybe a little bit longer, I'm starting to see what looks like shoots coming up from the gravel. This is not where I embedded it, but actually where I think that the mother plant has been sending out runners, and these should be way down deep in the gravel, deeper than the plecos and the catfish can dig them up. And so if that happens, and all of a sudden these things are springing to the top, I may well wind up with that carpet that I'm looking for. But as often as not, since I planted this plant, as you can see, I'm winding up with the plants floating on top, and so I'll get the tweezers and I'll put them back in, and then 2 or 3 days later there they are floating on the top again. Now, having said all of that, I like the fish that I have, and so if they're digging it up, they're digging it up. And again, this is a substrate. I've had some questions about it. It's Aqua Solum. It's from Seachem's Aqua Vitro line, and it's designed for planted aquariums. I had it initially in a shrimp tank, and that worked very well there because the shrimp don't dig. And now the Aqua Solum has been in an aquarium for going on a year, and some of the nutrients have predictably been used up. I don't hold that against the product, but it's really doing quite well, and it also keeps my pH where I want it, which is on the lower side. Initially it was very low, now it's just over 7. But anyway, I like this substrate. I like the look of it. I like it's easy to vacuum, but it is kind of light. And so when you push the roots down into the substrate from the plants, I have noticed that it is easier than some of the other substrates that are out there for the fish to dig it up. So that's a little bit on the downside. The lighting on this aquarium, by the way, I haven't talked much about it. I would call this medium lighting. I'm using a single LED strip light, and it is rated for plants. This is about a $200 retail fixture. And the thing that I like about this aquarium is that I haven't had any issues with algae. So the plants are out competing the algae. The lighting, which is on for 6 hours a day, is correct for mostly the crypts and the anubias that I have growing in the aquarium. And now I want to go to Brandon. Brandon talks a little bit here about using different methods to attach the Monte Carlo to the driftwood, and he says it drapes over the driftwood and actually grows down, which I think could be interesting, and that may be something that we'll try in a future Fincast. But here's Brandon McLean, and he'll talk a little bit more about the Monte Carlo. It's very brief, but I think it's helpful.
We're going to talk about the Micranthemum Monte Carlo. This is a newer plant to the industry, and it's a great plant because it actually wants to stay smaller and has a true weeping growth habit. This will be one of the easier carpet plants to grow, although still not easy. You're going to want mid to high light. The addition of CO2 is always great, but you can get away with mid lighting and without CO2 and still keep this plant moderately happy. So one of the neat things here, and especially the displays that I saw at EnerZoo 2 years ago, was that they used this on the top of a piece of driftwood to create a treetop to it. And you could see how the green fronds and leaves weeped downwards and really made it look like a nice oak tree in your yard. They just call it the Monte Carlo would be the short name that you'll see it in the trade listed as. If you look into it, the real scientific name behind it is Micranthemum tweedii. You don't see that as much. You mostly hear it referred to as Micranthemum Monte Carlo. The mats will be coming out soon. That's our next plan in the mat line that you'll see from us. We're working on growing them now, and they're in production. So hopefully in the next 2 to 3 months, you'll see that available.
Again, I've got a whole series of videos with Brandon where he gives us advice, and it's well needed for the hobby. I think I keep reef tanks and I keep planted tanks, and I will tell you that I think it's sometimes that the reef tank with the live corals and so forth, maybe a tad more expensive, but sometimes I think it's easier. So getting the planted tanks exactly right can be difficult, and we appreciate Brandon's help. So now you've had a look at my aquarium. We've heard from an expert. You've seen the aquariums at the trade show where Brandon was displaying the Monte Carlo, and that's what it's supposed to look like. And he did mention at the end of the interview that eventually he'll be offering to the trade these large sections of carpeting as opposed to the little pieces that you plant and wait for it to grow out. You can buy a whole mat from you can't buy it from Brandon, but stores can buy it from Brandon, and if you ask your retailer, and it's a good local fish store, that's something that they should be able to get by now as I'm speaking again in November of 2016. So there it is. There's a look at Monte Carlo. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll give you an update on it. I do actually have some special glue from Seachem, which allows you to glue plants onto rocks and onto driftwood, and I think I will take, since I've got so much floating around the top of my tank, I think I will take some of that and glue it on the driftwood, and we'll see how that goes. I have a feeling the plecos are just going to shear it right off, but we'll see how that goes. All right, so there's the look at Monte Carlo. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next Fincast.